Hi, this video is going to talk about the corresponding parts of congruent figures. It's one of the first topics that you need to learn about before you kind of dive into congruent triangles and congruent figures in general. You have to understand that the order of the letters that are listed in a congruency statement is really important. That is what determines exactly what pieces are congruent to what pieces. So if you're asked to write a congruency statement, you need to pay attention to the order of letters. Or if you're given a congruency statement, you need to pay attention to the order of the letters. First off, what is a congruency statement? This is a congruency statement, okay? They're telling you that triangle QRP is congruent to triangle XWP. The symbol congruent, which is right there, that tells you that each of the pieces have corresponding parts and they're equal in size and shape. So when we have a congruency statement like we're given, the order of the letters is important. The first letter is Q and the first letter of the other triangle is X. So we know because of the order that this is written in that angle Q has to be congruent to angle X. And if you actually look at the picture, angle Q is marked congruent to angle X. So the picture below is already marked up according to the way that this congruency statement is written. So that's helpful. We're going to tackle a few problems in a few minutes where there are no marks on the pictures. You could put them on yourself if you're given a congruency statement. So generally, if you have a congruency statement, the pictures aren't going to be marked up, but they could be. If we take a look at the middle letter of the first triangle, it's R. And so that has to correspond to the second letter in the other triangle, which is W. So angle R is congruent to angle W. And again, if we look, angle R and angle W both have the same tick marks. So we could just look at the picture and know that those two pieces are equal to each other. So they are corresponding. So Q corresponds to X, R corresponds to W, and that means that P corresponds to P. That doesn't always work out when they have a shared, it's not even really a shared angle, but when you have angles next to each other, won't necessarily be that. If we take a minute and let me just erase some of these arrows rather, we can also look at it as far as the segments go. The order of the letters, again, can save us. So if we wanted to know, say, what corresponds to segment PW, all right? So PW is here. We can just look at the picture and find the side that has the two tick marks, and it is here. Whoops, I just moved my screen. It is here, PR. All right, and again, if you don't have the markings on the picture already, look at the order of letters. They're asking us P to W, so we're going to look at the same order of letters in the congruency statement, PR. All right, so those would be corresponding parts, and they are congruent to each other. So if we look down at the bottom, this is the actual problem that we're working on here. They're simply asking what is congruent to PQ. So we just need to find the corresponding part and it will be congruent. So if we look at I'm just going to go to the picture itself and we find PQ. PQ is this, it has the three tick marks. So it has to be congruent to the other triangle's side that has three tick marks, which is this one. So for us to say PQ, we can also say that this one is going to be congruent to PX, and we want to remember to put that segment symbol there. All right, let's take a look at another one. Okay, this one is, we'll talk at the top when we have a congruency statement and our triangle's marked up, so that's awesome. We're looking at triangle LMK is congruent to triangle LRS, and the problem that they want us to solve is they're saying what is angle M congruent to. So if we look at angle M, it has the two tick marks on it. So we go to the other triangle. This one has three tick marks. That has one tick mark. Aha, there we go. We want our proper notation for angles, angle R. Just as an aside, this is the symbol that I use for angles. Some textbooks will just use that. So whatever you're comfortable with is fine, I guess, which I guess I just got used to this. It's how I was taught. Because sometimes you have to put the angles in order from least to greatest or greatest to least, and this kind of notation can get confusing. But that's another whole issue. All right, let's look at this other problem here. So we have a congruency statement that says triangle JIH is congruent to triangle ZYX, and they want us to find out which segment is congruent to JI. JI has a single tick mark on its side, so we have to jump over to the other triangle, and here is the single tick tick mark on that. So JI is going to be congruent to ZY. All right, let's move on. Okay, so this is our first problem where we don't have any tick marks at all. We could put them on if we want to. For some people, to make it really concrete, they're going to mark up, they're going to line up that angle Y is congruent to angle G, angle X is congruent to angle H, and angle W is congruent to angle F, and then they would do all of the segments. That's all fine and good. But let's see how this goes where, what if we just kind of look at the order of the letters in our congruency statement. They want us to know what angle W is congruent to. So I look at my congruency statement. W is my last letter. So it's going to be congruent to my last letter of the other triangle. So I didn't even really have to look at the triangles, which might feel like cheating, but the congruency statement is really important. The order of letters is really important. You're not going to be able to move forward with congruency. And if you move on to, I know high school geometry spends a lot of time on congruent triangles, and you need to know that the order of letters is really important. All right, these will be our last two problems. The top one, we have a congruency statement that says that triangle RQS is congruent to triangle RML, and they want us to tell us what is congruent to angle Q. So in the first part of our congruency statement, we have angle Q is written there. It's the middle letter. So we know that it's going to correspond with the middle letter of our second triangle. So it's going to be angle M. All right, and if you want, you can definitely, sorry about that. You can definitely mark them up. So you can mark that angle M is congruent to angle Q if you want. It's up to you. Our last problem here, we have seen these two triangles before. This time, let me just say that we're wondering what side would be congruent to FG. Let's say that that is our problem. We need to fill in that blank. So if we look at our congruency statement, it's where we always want to start. For FG, I don't see that until our second triangle, and it's F is the last letter going to the first letter. Again, the order of the letters matters. So when I come back and look at the order of letters for the first triangle that's listed, I need to go from the last to the first. So technically, in order for this to be right, it has to be WY, not YW. That's a little bit nitpicky, but it's the most correct way to write this congruency, corresponding parts, which leads to the congruency statement of the segments. All right, that's really the gist of it. You need to just keep an eye on the order of the letters. They're hugely important with congruent figures. All right, I hope this helped. Thank you.